Good morning, hello, good afternoon, wherever you may be turning this video on. Here is a little bit of a very brief explanation about a number of issues regarding SharePoint. And most of the things that we're going to be discussing today have to do with text manipulation, right? And merging fields, into other fields, dealing with lookup columns and extracting data from here to there, etc. Okay. So, analyzing the application, I figured, first of all, I wanted to have a solution for you that was application agnostic, that had nothing to do with what you're doing, but rather that deals with the problems that generally pop up. I think I have created enough of a smorgasbord of the issues that Barbara talked to me about, as well as some of the things that I found on the web while I was researching this, because we had a couple of pesky issues that I wanted to make sure I was approaching correctly. So, what is the plan? Well, we want to be able to parse text, extracting numerical values representing the year from a column, regardless of the column type. Extracting, number two, extracting display text from a lookup column, which is a drop down, and a drop down is always a value pair. Remember that, value pair, ID and displayable text. Number three, using parsed values in some sort of calculation. We may or may not do this in this video, but in a forthcoming video I will also deal with that. I just want to put a little bit more meat into the idea. There's not enough in there by itself. Merging the text content from one or more columns into another. That will be part of our demo, and we will definitely be talking about that. It is often tricky to decide when to use customization. Now, to effect changes in SharePoint, there's really three ways, right? At the most minimal, you have the browser. That's this, right? You have a bunch of things that you can do from the browser that can effect changes to the look and feel of the site. So that is called a customization. The second is SharePoint Designer. SharePoint Designer gives you a bit more capability than you can from the browser. Otherwise we won't be talking right now. And then finally you have software development, and that involves a software environment, generally Visual Studio, and a test server with SharePoint SharePoint installed on it. Currently, the alternatives to what I just described, the server and Visual Studio, is almost nil to non-existent. There are some limited solutions with a 64-bit version of Windows 7, but I don't like how it works, so I still revert back to the idea of using a server for development purposes. Okay, so what's the plan? Well, I want to create a scenario that involves a task list that should be simple enough so that we can follow it, and has the bare minimum of the following columns. A text column, and I'm going to use the title, which is a default. A lookup field, and I made up one called a due date. A text column for calculations, which we may not get to today. And you may want to have also a field that allows you to assign a user and what have you. These are vagaries that are not important. As we move down the plan, you'll see how all of that is going to work. So I created what I call a distraction-free site. It's a blank site. Yeah? It has nothing in it. Then I added 3 lists. And you can see them right here. This is the blank site, and we have a to-do 1, to-do 2, and status data. All right, let's open up to-do 1 for the sake of discussion. And here we have some made-up text. We have a title column, a due date, a status, assigned to, and year elapsed. This is the one where we can take some liberties with the notion of using this instead of a calculated field. Calculated fields are great when you're doing fundamentally basic stuff, but when you get very complex in your calculations, you run into problems. Namely, for example, that you cannot pull from from something like a status here because the calculated field doesn't see this, and that would be a problem. Okay, but we're not going to get to this today. Now, the thing to get from this particular little setup here is that in our demo, our first demo, our initial demo, we're going to demonstrate how to pull data out of the lookup field here, how to parse or how to extract the date, the year, I should say, right, from the due date, and then we're going to take all those little random pieces of text and we're going to kind of concatenate into the title with a little bit of formatting. The idea behind here is to show you how to, for example, pull the display text out of this and not the ID. This being the lookup field. And then the tools that are available in SharePoint Designer to do the parsing. And that will be kind of the extent of the first demo. We're going to do the demo in SharePoint Designer first, and then I'm going to show you, not necessarily do a demo, we're going to show you a solution with Visual Studio that does the same thing. So that's it. Okay, so let's start. So the first thing we want to do is find out where the heck the designer is. Oh, okay. For that, we want to get into list mode, and for that, you go up to the top of the browser here. You have a tool here called List Tools, and you're going to click on this side, which opens up the List Management ribbon, and the ribbon has a little section called Customize List. And in the middle there's an orange button. You want to click on that, and it's going to open SharePoint Designer. It's going to open SharePoint Designer if you have SharePoint Designer installed on your machine. If you don't have SharePoint Designer in your machine, the first thing you're going to do is go back to your administrator or whomever and have it installed, if you cannot do it yourself. Alright, so here we are, and what we're looking at is a lot of information about the to-do page, the to-do 1 list. This is what all of this is, and we're not going to get involved in this right now. So we're in basic demo site to-do 1. That's great. And what we want to do right now, by the way, is immediately jump into the workflow. So we're going to come here to the navigational panel. We're going to go down 1, 2, 3, and we're going to click on workflow. When we click on workflow, we have a little message here, a stark message in the middle of the page that says there are no items to show for this view. Right, because we haven't built one. And while in 2010 there are at least 3 types of workflows, it is important to realize that that all we need for our demonstration is the very simplest of workflow, and that is the list workflow. And as the bubble, if you're reading the bubble, you will see exactly how to do that. So we're going to click on this. The action of clicking prompts the SharePoint Designer to ask us which particular list we want to associate this with. And of course, we want to do 1. And once we have to do 1 open, we want to give it a name, and you know, possibly a description, although I'm going to skip that. I'm just going to put process to do one work WF for workflow. We hit enter, or click enter. All right, now we're fundamentally there, folks. We have a step, right? A step is a logical construct that holds, or container that holds actions and conditions and other things, but the whole workflow paradigm is very complex. So we're not going to get into anything outside of what we need immediately to get the job done. And the plan for this is to make sure that if I didn't say it clearly, that I say it clearly. The plan is going to be, we're going to grab the year from the due date column. We're going to grab the text displayable part of the lookup column for the particular item in question. We're going to merge those two together with the title, and we're going to format it so it doesn't look so like gobbledygook. That's it. All right. So what will be my first action? My first action will be, how the heck do I get the year from the due date? All right. So we create an action for that. And actually, if you come to the bottom of this list and you look at the third guy from the top, this is a good one. I mean, I can think of a few ways that you could do this. I think this is the easiest one though, so I'm going to use this one. And I'm going to start at the middle. Now, there's three parameters. You see the underline here, it picks the parameters that you need to complete this action. So you're going to start in the middle, because I think differently than these guys do. I click on the FX, which is going to open up a lookup for string box, which is really a way of, you know, it's kind of like an explorer of the items, of the things of the resources you have available. So first it gives you a data source and this is the current item, and that's where we're going to start, in the current item. And now we're going to look for due date, and we found it. Now if we say string, we will get the wrong format. We want a format that gives us year, month, and day. So we click on here, and I know that ISO will do it for us. I click OK. Now I have a place to parse from, a place to extract from, and that is this in a string format, current date in a string format. Now we come here to the beginning. How much do I want from this? Well, since this is a thing that takes characters from the beginning of the string, or the left side, we only need 4, because, you know, years are always expressed in 4, or at least for the next 10,000 years it will be. So I'm going to put 4 there. I'm going to hit return. Now we're going to come to the output. So we now have said that parse the first 4 characters of this particular string and put them somewhere. Where? I don't like variable substrings. I'm going to create something that's more descriptive, like year. Yeah, and it's going to be a string. Now this is now complete. We have one condition, one action I should say, excuse me, that does something very specific. You know, it grabs from the due date the year and puts it into a string variable somewhere. Now we need one more action, believe it or not, and that's it. That's the end of the workflow. An action that's going to set a field. So we're going to look for something that says set field in current item. This is perfect. What's the field that we're going to set? Anybody want to take a guess? Okay, give up. I'll tell you. Title. What's the value that we're going to set? A bunch of values. So how is that going to happen? Well, you can either lookup for something, or you can create a string builder box like this, which allows you to do a lot of things all at once, instead of, you know, God knows what you will have to do here. You may have to type each individual piece of string that you need. So this makes it a little easier to understand. We have this button here. It happens to be our friend. When I click it, it opens up one of those lookup thingies, and the first thing we want is the year that we put into a variable, and it won't be in current item. That's the actual data. So we go to workflow, variables, and parameters. That sounds friendly enough. And you know, we have substring that has nothing, and we have this year thing that where we put our actual year, right? Then I'm going to say space hyphen space. We could have used anything. Okay, let's just to be a little different. Let's space colon space. We're going to be different today. And now we're going to go to current item. We're going to look for that lookup field, right? It happens to be status. And what I discovered is that as string will give you the entire value pair in a funny looking way. It will give you the ID, a hash mark, and then the displayable text. So we're not going to use as string, we're going to use value as text. Lookup value as text. Which doesn't, you know, hit a note with me, but okay, better than nothing, I suppose. Okay, I'm going to do a little bit more formatting here again, and oh, maybe just for the heck, what the hell, we usually use my hyphen in this last part, and we say current item. What do we want? We want the title. Well, because right now, since we're writing into title, we're going to make sure we put it back, otherwise we lose it. Okay, so there is a complete, you know, concatenation of the three different pieces of text into the one column. We click OK, and believe it or not, folks, we have come to the sad end of the development of this particular workflow. We need now to save it. So, and you know, God never knows, but one never knows, but God, we may have an error here, right? So we're going to click and check for error, and the workflow contains no error. Now this is silly on my part, but if you're writing something very long and you want to save it, but you want to make sure that at least syntactically it's not a disaster, you want to hit that once in a while. I'm going to hit the save button now to save what we've done. I'm going to go to workflow, and now we see before this list was blank. Now this list has a workflow in it. Now important here now, we're going to click on this guy. What it does, it opens up this configuration page. Don't know what you call this, but what we're looking for, what we're after is this little box over here. It says start options. We want to make sure that our workflow will kick off automatically when we add or edit, and that's what this represents. Edit, add. No, I should say add, edit. Okay, so this is now set up to kick off automatically. This would have to be from a kicking off the URL with the workflow start. This is something that we're not going to use. It will be too cumbersome anyway. I will leave it there as a backup, but I wouldn't normally even bother with that. All right, so we save this. Now we're almost ready, right? But there is no sign here. If we go to listing, sorry, hold on. Bear with me. I just did a little snafu. Let's see here. This guy is the one. Workflow setting, no site listing. And we look, and okay, there are no current workflows associated with this list. So we come back to SharePoint Designer here, and we say, okay, let's publish this to get all this gobbledygook into the server. Okay, we do a refresh here. And it tells us, indeed, we have a workflow register now associated with this particular list. We're going to go back to to-do one here. And we're going to come here at SharePoint, and we're going to close it because we don't need it anymore. We may have to come back and maybe edit this, but I don't think so. I think we're done. Now, we're going to test to see if our little handiwork actually works. But, so again, let's say we're going to extract the year from the due date. We're going to grab all of this, I'm going to put it together, and we're going to put it in front of develop a plan, right? Let's see. So all we need to do to make that happen is just open one of these edit forms and save it. And voila! Ta-da! What happened? Well, kind of set you up for that one. What really happened is that on the first kickoff of the not all the time, but most of the time, of a workflow, you have to kind of refresh the page to see it. And there we go. There it is. Okay? And here is our formatting handiwork. Isn't that beautiful? Maybe I will get a Nobel Peace Prize for this. Alright, so now we've tested the edit part of our workflow. Now let's see if we can test adding something. So we're going to go pick up the laundry. We're going to give it a day or today, or my wife will kill me. And I would type in progress. You know, that's what I always say. Oh yeah, it's in progress. AA, and forget the last year. That's for another demo, another time. Okay, and well, look what happened. We got this guy here, and we got this guy here, which is the picking up of the laundry. Notice that the information got formatted appropriately. And it's unfortunate that I use this name, but it is pulling from the status for this particular little bit here, and of course the year comes from it. So let's do one more. Let's say that let's do another ad, just to demonstrate that. And since there's nothing protecting this, I can do what I'm about to do. I'm going to put this date into the past. And I'm going to say completed. And I'm going to assign it to me. It really doesn't matter. The point I'm trying to make is, okay, so here we have a complete, right, 2013 complete. And I didn't really get what I wanted. Let's just do another one. I think I've convinced you. I wanted to get one with the years change, but we know what the only place this could possibly be coming from, other than hidden in some piece of code, is from the due date. All right. So that ends the demo for the SharePoint Designer, and how you can get a workflow to give you the desired effect. Now this could have been another column, it could have been a calculated column, it could have been a bunch of stuff, all right? And certainly you should play around with this, and if you run into an issue, let me know. I'm going to be putting a lot of these video blogs, fast and furious, discussing some of what I think are the things that everybody drops because they're too simple and nobody wants to deal with these little problems. But I think they need to be somewhere for somebody to look at them. In the old days, in the SPD world, they used to have a thing called, that you could go and look at a little piece of software that you wanted to see. It was a how-to site and had this very short explanation how to do this, that, or the other thing. And I think this is what this is going to be like. I want to start developing a whole plan for this kind of nonsense so that people can go look, search for what they want, maybe find it. and maybe not. Anyway, so now we're going to go to the last demo on this whole thing, and this one has to do more of a very quick demonstration, or no actual coding, no nothing. We're going to go to a server where I have Visual Studio already installed, and I've done more than that. I have an application that I have written to go hand in glove with this particular demonstration. I'm not going to discuss much of Visual Studio, not at least this time, this go around, because that's not the intention of this particular demo. But this is an event receiver. This is what you're looking at, and it's pretty straightforward if you're a programmer. The code is very little. This doesn't do a heck of a lot over here, as you can tell. And we are going to leave this intentionally different from, originally it used to be identical, so I left it intentionally different from the other one, because I show you, here's the formatting when you put all the, like we had in the builder box, the string builder box. Here's the formatting of the year, the lookup, and the title. It's the same thing, folks. Okay, so let's deploy this, because right now it won't run without this being deployed. And where you look for this is you go to, this is not a workflow, so you got to come here to the site settings, and there is something called features. The features is, there is one here. You see, it's not activated, and this will work, but what's going to happen is when I deploy that from Visual Studio, this will get deleted, and a new one gets put in its place. So let's do it. And activate it. So we're going to say deploy. And when you look at this stuff, you're gonna see words like retracting solution. That it took the old one that was there, which is this. The solution was retracted. Deleting the solution, this was done. And then a new solution, adding a solution. So it did the same thing. If we go back to see if it actually worked, all we have to do is refresh this. And because it did a lot of work, all the buffers were destroyed. This is taking a little longer. You can see over here thinking, well, finally came back, and now look, here's your one now. And you see a little flag that says activated. All right. Now we go to do, not one, we have to go to two. We'll get there sooner or later. Okay. So, with it activated, this should actually work. So we'll do the first test that we did, as we did with the SharePoint, the designer version of the demo. And we simply save, and voila, there it is. And the add, here I'm going to have to do my favorite, pick the, hope I'm spelling that right. Okay, we pick it up today. So the task is in progress, and boom, right? And very similarly, we have a similar action that I wanted to demonstrate, and it's all done. Okay, this is the end of the demo, and I hope that at the very least you have questions that you want to ask us, and we can go from there. In the meantime, while you mull this one over, I'll talk to you later. Have a great day.